Today we are going to continue the series on plants, and we are going to talk about marijuana because it is 420, the marijuana holiday. And first, let's talk about the legend of 420. So the legend of 420 goes that a group of boys wanted to meet after school to smoke weed, and they picked the time 420. And the reason they picked the time 420 is because 420 is also Adolf Hitler's birthday, and they thought that that was funny. Basically, that is the legend of 420. That is why they picked that time, and those are the numbers. And the marijuana plant is an hallucinogen. Yesterday, we talked about stimulant plants, and we also talked about sedative plants. So today, we are going to talk about a hallucinogenic plant that is marijuana. It is I believe, a medicinal plant as well when used in moderation. When consumed in moderation, this plant can be used in medicinal ways, and when overdosed, the plant has a sort of, it's not psychedelic because that would be mushrooms, but it has a hallucinogenic effect on the system. It is vital to the human system as there is an endocannabinoid whole structure inside of the human body that this plant connects to. So it is very much something that is for human beings. It's not for everybody because some people have an endocannabinoid system that is already fully functioning. And then they would be the type that's like, I don't get it. I smoke some and it doesn't do anything. And then there are the types who have a deficiency, and when they smoke it, they feel better. And then there are the types who overdo it, and then they end up stressing other systems because of the overuse. I have done that myself, just because I'm a person who microdoses. And I've just gone like every single day just as a habit, smoking before right when I wake up. And some days I don't necessarily need it. And so I would end up stressing other systems from doing too much, even though I don't smoke it in a recreational way. It's almost like a vitamin at some point. It is exactly like a supplement. It is a supplement. At some point, your body has fulfilled what it needs, and you can take a break. You can actually coast on what you've built up in your system for a while. And that is something that is very, very difficult to do for me, even with marijuana, because it has a habitual effect because of the slight hallucinogenic side effect. And that is the same thing that happens with prescription drugs. The reason why they're so hard to get off of is because they lace them with just this hint of this hallucinogenic vibe, or this hint of this sedative vibe, or the little hint, a little kiss. You know what I mean? A little taste, just like a drug dealer, just a little bit of a taste of that thing that gets you hooked. And each one of these, even prescription drugs, street drugs, and anything you would get is a derivative of one of these naturally occurring substances. And they have carefully curated them to give you that little something that keeps you coming back for more. Wean yourself off, and the best way, I'm not going to lie, is to find its natural counterpart and start using that instead. So if you're a person who loves cocaine, I know that sounds crazy, but there's a lot of people out there that do. First of all, that is nothing more than coffee. I would like for you to read my book because I tried all these drugs in a short span of time, and I did a whole dissertation on each one of them. And cocaine is literally just a step up from coffee in every single way, except for because of the way that you ingest it and what goes on with it in your nasal cavity. It wreaks havoc with your system. Like, it wreaks havoc even with your physical body. And that's unnecessary because you could really just drink a lot of coffee and have the same effect. But all of these things have been duplicated somewhere, and just try the natural thing first and then get balance on your own, and you will be able to sort of exit that world with a lot more grace. Does that make sense? I hope it does. Okay, that really went off kilter because I have these little stints in my life where I'm always doing something for the greater good. And I did for a few months just try every single drug that there possibly was, like whatever I could get my hands on, just to see what was up. And I wrote all about it in my book, Dark World Light Work. And that part is very, very interesting because it did nearly kill me anyway. I was almost like an undercover operative myself. And I went, you have to like take the drugs and everything to be really that undercover. And I barely made it out. I barely made it out with my life. So don't do drugs, because even if you're just joking, like even if you're just playing, even if you're just stopping through, just like I felt like I was just like, I'm just going to spin out just because I'm tired. I was like, I'm tired of just being bored or whatever it was. It still will literally attempt to steal your entire soul and take your life. So don't even start, especially with some man-made stuff. No. And don't even start with anything at all, because I think the thing that saved me the most when I entered into this world, number one, is that I do this like over and over again, which is why I wrote a book about it. But also because I was a grown woman and I'd never done drugs or done any hard drinking. You know, I did binge drinking when I was in my 20s, like I feel like a lot of people do. And I'm not saying that that's a good thing, and I wish that I hadn't, because it's not me. Do you know how many people did that? And it's like, it's not even an aspect of their personality at all. What saved me is that I was a very clean person, and I was just experimenting at a pretty old age. I knew that it was something for the greater good, even though in the moment it was me acting out in a way that I didn't when I was a teenager, basically. Having my teenage crisis at 33 years old because I was a late bloomer, basically. That's the human side of things. But anyway, all of it was a very interesting journey into that world where I gathered, again, a ton of information, which is why I wrote the book, Dark World Light Work. And I could blather on and on, but we were talking about 420, and happy 420. All right, I love you. Bye.